BBB started doing what we call trust talks. The purpose is to enter into a dialogue with experts to help us at a time right now when we need help. No man is an island, and this is definitely the time by which we don't want to ask. Why I invited Chris and Nabil and Roy to share their experience is, first of all, they're BBB accredited businesses in the IT industry. And when I came up and said, let's talk about maybe we should offer this to our ABs, these guys are dealing with the impact for the small business owner as they move to remote workforces. Things like cyber, are you protecting your most important data, excuse me, that being your client? Are you connected right so that there is constant communications between team members and the business owner? None of this was easy. Very few of us were well prepared. I want to say that we made the transition on March the 16th to moving 22, I think, staff to remote. We had about 2 to 3 weeks prep time. We did so with these experts by helping us do this. It has been absolutely a seamless experience. We have really had, the glitches we've had have been people glitches, not technology glitches. So I know this is important to everybody. I will stop talking now. Again, this is being recorded. As Clay said, up in the top right corner is a little bubble. Click on that bubble, type in your question. Roy, Nabil, Chris will address your questions as we at the end of this conversation. And so let me introduce to you who we have here. First of all, I want to start with Roy White. Roy, wave. There you go. That's Roy White. Roy's the president of Independent Software. Previously, he was the president and CEO of Diverse Concepts. The two businesses merged in 2020, and Roy has over 20 years of IT experience, and like everybody else, he started when he was 8. So he also served in the U.S. Air Force. Thank you very much, and it's an honor to have you with us. Then next, we have Nabil. Nabil, wave. That was a slow wave, but okay, we'll take it. Nabil Sheikh is the CEO and visionary behind Omega Core Technology, an early adapter of the managed IT approach to help small to medium organizations manage their IT cost, improve productivity, increase reliability. Nabil has 20 years of experience or over. So again, I love that all these IT guys started when they were 8. So last, I want to introduce to you Chris Barber. Chris, wave. Okay, so I thought long and hard how to introduce Chris, and I'll end with one thing. Chris is the CEO of Cheaper Than a Geek. Chris started his business realizing that small business needed IT support. He started his business in his basement, in his living room, his garage, the back porch, wherever he could find a space and a connection. So Chris is going to actually be our moderator today, and I'm going to turn it over to him with his famous last words. If any of you know Chris, you know his motto is, he takes the SH out of IT. So that is Chris's goal today, is to do that for all of us at this early hour with a cup of coffee. Help us. So Chris, take it away.
Oh, wow. I probably should have had a Red Bull with an introduction like that. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for participating. We're hoping to help you folks in our nerdy capacity in this trying time. We've got 3 great IT companies here, all accredited by the Better Business Bureau, to discuss the new normal, which is teleworking. We've got some questions that we think you folks will have, so we'll go ahead and knock those down. And then after that, we'll take some more questions from you folks. Just use the chat function so that we can facilitate that happening. Let me see here. So let me start off with Roy. So Roy, home network security. what do most of our home teleworkers misunderstand as it pertains to security?
Uh, First of all, thank you, Andy and the BBB, for allowing me to be a part of this. But Chris, just to answer your question, I think the unknown. I think the CEOs like ourselves, talking to other CEOs, think that just because they have a VPN connected and and things of that nature, they feel like that they're secure. They have a secure connection back. But I think Nabil and I were going to get into the unknown later. But however, um, one of the issues that we start to see is that the uprise in phishing attempts and things like that, because as we move into a remote environment, I think the hackers seeing and adversaries and malicious folks with malicious intent, seeing the opportunity as well for them to capitalize on our changing environment, and the appear to the unknown. So when you get to your home and things like that, you as a CEO or CTO cannot account for some of the actions of other folks in your house. And we're not saying that they're purposely malicious or anything like that, but there are other ways of social engineering and things of that nature, which we've seen over 110% rise in social engineering and phishing attempts since we've moved into this new climate and the new normal, as we call it. So, I mean, even Zoom has been impacted, and everybody started using new ways to communicate, through this method of remote work. And we do know that this is the way we're possibly going to be able to, we're going to be looking at moving going forward. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah, this rise in attempted intrusions is kind of scary. Nabil, do you want to add anything to that?
Just a couple of things. When it is a home environment, the VPN tunnel will help you at least protecting communication between your computer to the office. However, you also have your internal environment. A lot of the time, individuals don't necessarily have their network protected. We have other users who go to different sites and bring in, malicious things, and then that information could also be introduced to your work environment. So having for each computer its own protection, endpoint securities, and two-factor authentications would be very critical as well.
Exactly. Just to build on that, and I think that's kind of what a lot of people are sleeping on. This whole COVID-19 thing kind of snuck up on everybody, and we were suddenly teleworking, and I think a lot of folks didn't give a lot of thought to endpoint security. So we've seen, for example, clients that have fantastic security on their work computers that we provide for them, but they're using their home laptop with no security at all to jump in. And that's just, if you think about it, that's just absolutely crazy. So you want to make sure that you're, like Nabil and Roy are saying, you got to make sure that your endpoints are secured. That's super important, and that's every endpoint. So keep that in the back of your mind. Nabil, Zoom, they've gotten a lot of bad press lately. Is it safe to use?
Well, as you know, there is a free version and there is a subscriber version of it. And usually, whenever you have a free version and the subscriber version, you don't have the same value. So the first thing is, if you want to use it for business, make sure you get the subscriber version that gives you more control and more features. But even the free version has a lot of features that people really did not know better to enable, right? So the first thing is definitely they did have certain issues. They acknowledged it and they are addressing it. And I'm actually even more optimistic now that they are under a microscope. They are going to do even a better job in ensuring it's going to be even more secure. But they also have training that they are posting on a weekly basis now, so that people who are using it are actually enabling certain features that adds additional security. For instance, you can actually set up the meetings with password and selectively accept people as they're trying to come to join. They could wait on the lobby or a waiting area, and you bring them in if they are authorized to join the meeting. So there are different features that they automatically, as of I think April 12, they turned on a lot of features to be enabled automatically, but it also gives you additional features that you can set up to increase the security level as well. So sometimes it is really, what are we investing on the tool we are using so that we can get the return on our investment, good value exchange. And secondly, are we learning to use the tool and the feature it has to enable it and optimize its ability?
Fair enough. Roy, you want to add anything to that? I know Zoom got you pretty good. What was it, like a week and a half ago?
Yeah, I mean, it shut down some training that we were involved in and things like that as well. That me and my team was involved in, but and that was offered by one of the colleges. But one of the things that just to piggyback off of the bill, I get to look at the bad side of it, and I'm not against Zoom or anything like that, but I think in this environment that was changing, I think we as CEOs were trying to be agile and things like that. So the cheaper method was to just grab a hold of Zoom because it was free, and I think that that was alarming to, well, not even alarming, but just the fact of the matter that a lot of people were able to see that that was the new method that people were using. And of course, like anything, you have adversaries that start to look at that. So they started hacking the new accounts, and I think yesterday it was reported that over 500,000 Zoom accounts, the free accounts. Let me make sure I'm not, going against my colleague here, but the free accounts were starting to be sold on the dark web. So, and they're still addressing a lot of security issues from the free. And I think, one of the things my grandmother used to say to me was the hookup isn't always the hookup. And, meaning that just because it's free doesn't mean that it's the best method for you. And I think that, yes, it's a good caveat to start out with, but I really encourage all CEOs to look at other ways to, to communicate and collaborate with their team in this remote environment, by using things like, Microsoft Teams or Amazon Web Services or even GoToMeeting. I mean, there's other methods that you can use, or paying for the subscription version of Zoom. Like I said, I'm not totally against Zoom or anything like that, but until they can, address what their security issues are, and that's with air quotes, all the way, I'm kind of scared of some of the things that they have going on.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree as well. Let's see here. So let's talk phishing emails, Roy. You kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. They're a huge security threat, and like you said, they're getting worse. Tell us what's going on and what you can do about it.
Yeah, so a lot, even with this environment, I know that and a lot of times, working in an office environment, your boss, you could walk into your boss's office or walk into someone else's office, and you all could conduct business and things of that nature. Well, now, our adversaries and and hackers and everyone else that uh, you know decides to do mischief on the internet and try to capitalize on the unknown, um, started to utilize phishing attempts more often, only because of the fact, they knew that that was our main way of communicating. I mean, a lot of us aren't sitting on Zoom or whatever all day with, everyone in our office, even though that's been a good method, of communicating with the office and things like that and checking in. But a lot of folks haven't been trained properly on dealing with some of the things that are getting through your Exchange firewall or anything like your Exchange spam filters or anything like that. Um, So what tends to happen is those emails tend to get through. Even I seen a spike in some of my customers dealing with emails coming from the boss to their Gmail, which lets us know that they're doing a lot of social engineering in order to conduct this phishing attempts and the group phishing attempts where they're actually posing as the CEO, going to the lowest level employee, the newest employee or something like that, getting them to do something that would involve either providing IP, business IP, or funding over to whoever the adversary is. So I mean, Google saw a spike in over 18 million daily phishing attempt emails since this thing started. And I mean, those fake emails from CEOs and things like that, I probably dealt with over 35 in the last 2 or 3 weeks with our customers. And it's one of the things. I mean, we've seen everything from a credit card scam to a gift card scam, where they're asking people to go out and get gift cards and then provide them with the number of the gift cards and putting that, and utilizing that to create mischief. I mean, I'm talking $3,000 to $5,000, in each attempt. So I mean, phishing emails are really the I guess the biggest problem that a lot of companies that I'm dealing with are really having, because of the fact of the matter that you can't go in and talk to the boss and things like that. And I think a lot of companies really need to start putting in policies and procedures for this type of environment, for the new normal. Whether or not, if it's up to $200, make sure that you know they talk to the CEO or the CFO or whoever's handling the money before making any kind of purchases or anything like that with their company credit card or company account.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Nabil, you got anything to add to that?
Just a couple of things. Definitely, Roy covered a lot of the key. To me, when it comes to phishing, which is the most common method of attack nowadays, the best equipment we have or tool we have to fight back is really knowledge, right? The training part you mentioned, the phishing training. There are so many phishing simulation trainings that are out there, very inexpensive. I think the best defense is, you know. Executives or business owners investing on their staff in getting those kind of trainings, very basic trainings, and awareness. Sometimes common sense is not always common practice. So we want to create that top of mind to know the difference between real email versus faulty or phishing emails. But in some cases, they are really difficult to differentiate also. So we have to also create the mindset shift, right? Where certain things just don't do it through email. If you receive an email from an executive saying transfer money, that's not the proper way of communication for that type of thing. So that should raise red flag, because the company policy is always communicate on a phone or in person for something like transferring money or anything to do with key information exchange or transfers, right? So that's set shift. Some things we can protect through tools and technology, but some things at the end of the day will have to be through trainings and awareness and behavior shifts as well.
Yeah, that's so important. It used to be years ago, and I think you guys would agree with me, the scams were pretty boilerplate, and we could tell our clients, hey, if anybody says blah, 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 it's a scam, hang up the phone, run away, whatever. But they're just getting really, really sophisticated. And if your company is a public-facing company, like most of them, they can very easily figure out, who the boss is, who the money person is, and then boom, they start crafting these scams, and they really get you. Two scams that we saw recently, just to make you folks aware of them. One was pretty sophisticated. They figured out who the email host was and sent the chief finance person a very realistic looking login to update their email password. So this person knew that they were with GoDaddy and they got this official looking GoDaddy email. They click the link, they're on a page that appears to be a GoDaddy page where they log in with their email credentials. Then they get this error message that says, sorry, never mind, everything's fine. Now they've got this person's email credentials. So they hop into their email account. They start watching the traffic. So then they see, oh, these people wire money to these people. And then they insert themselves into the conversation. And before you know it, they're really getting over on the other folks because there's this it's not a spoofed email, it's a real email about a real conversation that they're really having where they say, hey, I'm sorry, our CPA decided we needed a different reserve fund account, so just change the SunTrust number to this number. And everybody in the conversation is just totally buying it because it all makes sense. So don't log into anything that you get through an email if you can help it. If GoDaddy says that there's a problem with your email, for example, go to GoDaddy's website. Don't click the link in the email and then log in that way. Another crazy one we saw, I never heard of this. This one happened yesterday. Had a client that has Verizon internet service, and they were having some trouble with their internet service. So they called Verizon. Verizon reset some stuff. They were good to go. And then about 30 minutes later, they got a call from a company purporting to be Verizon that said, hey, we were wrong about what we said earlier. We need to send you another modem. And they talked this person into letting them remote into their computer. And then every part of this scam I'd never heard before. And then these folks put 3 different ways to remote control the computer on so that they could always connect. And they realized that the client had been logged into her Amazon account. So then they went into her Amazon account and started buying Amazon gift cards like nobody's business. That all started with, this person is a smart person who, had just been talking to Verizon. So it was very convincing, but really you shouldn't let anybody connect to your computer unless it's your IT company because they can cause all kinds of chaos. So good stuff, folks. And it's just being vigilant. The training thing, Roy and Nabil both talked about that. The training thing is where it's at. That's the only thing you can do. When we had that other incident with the email, at first the client was like, I thought we were paying you guys for security. Well, they are, and they've got great top-notch security, but we can't prevent people from giving away their passwords, and that's what happened in that particular case. So the human element is the weakest link in the chain, so you definitely want to do the training. It's so very important. Let's see here. So security mindset, you touched on that, Nabil. Can you talk a little bit more about that? It's like an ever-evolving landscape out there, and the mindset, I think, is the way to go here.
Yeah. So since the conversation here is, about working remote, also the trend now, right? So the first mindset I encourage people, to have is this is not a temporary measure. I think one of the things that's happening, what I have been seeing is, oh, okay, this is just a temporary, just use your computer, at home computer, or just take this computer and we'll just go ahead and just buy some time until these things turn around. Well, it's not going to be temporary, and I think we are definitely going to have, and to some extent, a new norm. So let's assume this is going to be an ongoing things, and let's start setting the security in mind always. If we have people working whether with company provided computers or personal computers, we should start always with the system itself has all the necessary security measures, password, policies, two-factor authentication, endpoint securities, VPN, because once people are going back to the new norm, people will still continue working remotely from Starbucks and Paneras and different places too. So I would not, advise people to just log into public Wi-Fi either. So just making sure having the VPNs already in place, there's necessary security in each of the computer in place is really very critical. Secondly, also having company use policies and enforcing it. and making sure that every so often we are auditing that the people who are working from home, they're still using the company policy as it is written, and it's being enforced. People forget too sometimes, our families are our trusted members of our household, but they are not the employees of the company. They don't have authority to have access to the company information either. So sometimes when we are at home working and we are stepping to the kitchen to get coffee, we may end up leaving the computer still on, and that's not a good practice. So those are things that we take for granted. So we just want to make sure that from a mindset standpoint, we are training ourselves to make sure we respect the privacy and the security and the policies of the company as individuals, and also as management team, as business owners. We have the right policies in place and we are communicating those policies. We can talk all day about technology because we are technology people, but uh, a lot of the back doors are behaviors and habits and mindsets. So that's why I like to focus on those things, because that's the one. It just takes one incident. People slipped because they didn't, think certain way, or they didn't exercise thinking and behave in certain way to bypass all of the advanced security technology-based security measures that we have. So I encourage people to continue doing, those trainings, management, enforcing the policies that is in place on an ongoing basis and auditing them every so often.
That's a good point. You want to add anything to that, Roy?
Yeah, I agree with the bill. I think a lot of us take for granted that the human asset is the first line of defense against securing your security posture as a as any type of company would definitely contest to, is the fact of the matter that your employees, whoever uses that computer that contains that that company IP, or whatever awesome things you're doing at your company, you have to be vigilant of what you're doing and how you're doing things, from a security mindset. Hey, does it sound right? And being very vigilant in everything that you do, not just your job, but being vigilant now, more so in what's going on in your surroundings. The unknown is what keeps me up at night. A lot of times, because you don't know what people are doing on their systems, and I hate getting those 2 a.m. phone calls about there's a cyber attack or something like that that's going on with one of my customers that was working late, and they clicked on something, as Chris elated to earlier, they clicked on something that they shouldn't have, and they're like, well, I'm paying you for security, da da da. That's why I'm on the phone with you at 2:45 in the morning. It's because you're paying me for security. I got to clean up the mess. Not I didn't create it. So I think a lot of folks don't see the human portion of the OPSEC and the operations of being secure within their company. Is everyone's responsibility, if I could say that correctly.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Roy. It absolutely is. Well, we got a pretty good question in the chat, and folks, seriously, if you got a question, throw it in there. If at all possible, we're going to answer it for you. So, David Wenkos had a pretty good one here. How effective are the security protocols, options, offerings that are built into mainstream wireless routers? For example, his Netgear router that has security options that they've emailed him about. So I guess starting with Roy, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, everyone's going to try to upsell you at this point, Dave. On their security features, whether or not it's what you have is efficient or anything like that. Well, you all can see over to the side, I do have a Netgear router as well, and they have tried to give me a security features, but they also have embedded firewalls within that Netgear router that you can actually filter the packets and some of the data that you have coming in and out. I don't want to say that too loud because I want my daughter to hear it. because I do watch a lot of the movies that he does. But it sucks having a dad as an IT geek. Um, however, you want to utilize all this, mostly all the security. I mean, some things may be overkill, but I really feel like utilizing, some of the security features that you feel are appropriate for your business or for what you're doing at home and things like that to protect your family, protect the data you have at home. And those beautiful pictures of you and your family and things like that, as well as your company IP. I think you should utilize, the security options that they do have. If they do offer something that's a little more seamless, like I have one that I can monitor everything that all my daughter's devices and things of that nature. Just so I'm secure. Well, both of the kids, I try to monitor everything that they do because I don't want to know. I don't want my son to click on something that he thinks is Roblox, and it infects my whole network at home. And that's but Netgear offering something more than that, I would have to look into that. They email me all the time, but I let it go to junk box. I'm sorry.
What's your thoughts on that, Nabil?
So, everything is relative, right? For me, Netgear is a good place to start. Most of depending on what particular equipment you have, some have just sufficient security protection. And based on your threshold and what you're trying to protect, there are so many different layers of security protection, and that's one of the thing about the challenge. And when it comes to security, there are so many different solutions, and there's no one silver bullet that takes care of your entire security needs. So we usually approach it in different layers. Firewall being one of the layers, and we want to start with something based on the size of your business, what you try to protect, the budget you have. We try to optimize, what is the best, firewall solution that we should start with. At least you have that. That's a good place to start. But you can always look at features and benefits, and you can always upgrade. There's always room because uh, when it comes to security, these people are well funded. They have a lot more time and money than most of us out there. So having different layers of protection is very critical when we are setting this. The second part too is we have, home users versus business now in one ecosystem. So nowadays, a lot of the routers that we are provided by the ISPs or Verizon or Comcast, you can actually they come with two Wi-Fi options, so you can separate your home users versus the one that you're going to be using for your business too, with a little bit of help with somebody. Uh, Either you can do it by reaching out to them or just have somebody come help you just set it up, because that makes a huge difference too, because our teenagers go to different sites and uh, you know bring in a lot of unwanted uh, materials into our ecosystem, so you don't want to be affected by that. So those are another measures to consider also.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds about right. So in a nutshell, you've got more tighter control when you deal with these commercial grade firewalls, and also you've got enhanced security like these gents are talking about. When you have a layered approach, it just kind of minimizes your attack surface and helps keep you safer. If anybody else has any other questions, make sure you chat them on through. Let me bring it back to personal computers being used without verifying the endpoint security. Let's see here. Nabil, can you talk about what does that mean? So if you've got a home user that's doesn't have appropriate security protocols and they're teleworking into their office, what kind of exposure do they have doing that?
Well, definitely, there's a lot of exposure when you don't have security. Like we mentioned earlier, you may have the good discipline of not going to different site, but if you have a teenage person at home, or certain people in good intention went to a site downloaded something that was offered for free that is beneficial. And a lot of the time, when somebody gives you something for free, sometimes okay, but sometimes there's an agenda behind it, and we download it. And unfortunately, with a lot of the criminals, they don't affect you right away. They actually stay in your ecosystem for quite a while and study your behavior before they do something. So you don't even know when, one of your family members had inherited something from the outside. So if you don't have what we call the endpoint security, which is your intrusion detections, content filtering capability within your computers, all of that is now, because you're in the same network, would be introduced to your computer. Now that is introduced to your computer, even though you have a secure tunnel, encrypted tunnel to go back and forth between your headquarters where you work, because you're a trusted, individual to that VPN, you will bring in, basically you're smuggling the bad stuff with the good stuff in, if you don't have the right thing filtering through and making sure that it is being detected and quarantined for you. So those are critical investment. The VPNs being one of the most important things nowadays. Short of having firewall, what we call a small office, home office firewall for each work stations in at home. The next best thing, more cost-effective way of having security is having what they call the SSL VPN, to be able to have that protection for each user that's working remotely.
I totally agree. Did you want to add anything to that, Roy?
I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, the endpoint is the most important aspect to this remote working environment, and I really feel like we if you're not providing your employees with the proper endpoint with the software and hardware that's needed to effectively complete their operation, the business operation from home. I think that you should at least try to offer it. I mean, there's antiviruses and endpoint security software out there that you can provide that cost a little or nothing. And I think that's more important to your business than anything. So thanks, Bill, for that. You had a lot of great points.
Sure.
Yeah, good call. We got this question via email. Can you talk about collaborative software and file management on the cloud? Are Microsoft Teams and OneDrive a good solution? Can you lead us off there, Roy?
Yes, I am a strong advocate for Microsoft, the Microsoft 365 solution that they're offering. I do feel like Teams is also a great way to collaborate. It has its own video features. We've gotten up to like 20 people on a Teams call at one time. I think I was introduced by some of my folks at Anchor IT that showed me when it was first coming online that that you could collaborate using this tool even with people outside of your organization. And I really adopted it probably in the last 3 or 4 months, but it's been phenomenal to share data. You can share files and actually restrict who that file is going to. I can send a file directly to Angie from inside my infrastructure, and Angie's the only person that can view that file because she's verified by her email address and things like that. From the Teams tool, you have Zoom, you have a message board where you can. It's kind of like Slacker, and Google's. I think Google also has the same thing where you can actually collaborate, on different topics and have a message board and an ongoing chat on your team, so you don't have to do everything via video. You have this platform to communicate back and forth with your team and work on certain issues without having to be in the room with them. You can share documents back and forth. There's chat features. Everything is right there. So I'm a strong advocate for it.
How about you, Nabil?
Well, definitely, as a Microsoft, certified partner, we definitely advocate for that as well. And one of the things to keep in mind about team is really having, the Zoom and Dropbox and, iCloud, everything in one place, right? And sometimes we have the tools right under our nose, and we don't take a full advantage of it. Most people already have the Office 365 subscription because they need it for Word and Excel and PowerPoint, but they miss out that, they could, add on these few things that's already either included or, with the one level upgrade to the current subscription, they have all of this ammunition in their hand. It is a very efficient way of running your business because it's centralized, it's in one place. It allows you to do all of the features, Roy mentioned, and without having to subscribe to two, three, four different things, because that also is part of that workflow and efficiency productivity side of your manpower also, right? So I think team is one of the best things I have seen nowadays that are out there that allows you to do so many different things under one big package.
Yep, yep. With security as backbone, so it's better
Yeah,
than cobbling together a whole bunch of little solutions and having all kinds of issues.
yeah. And one misconception is people think team is just only for internal. But Roy already mentioned that you can actually really use it the way you would use Zoom to with external people, or sharing file like you would do with Dropbox with external people. So that's something to note.
Yep, yep. You're very right. That's a good point. So we have actually hit our time limit here. So I'd like to thank you, Roy and Nabil, for sharing your knowledge and expertise here. Thank you, folks, for coming out and sitting with us, allowing us to get nerdy with you. And I guess I'll pass the baton back to Angie.
All right. Thanks for all your nerdy wisdom. It's been wonderful to have you guys. I hope everybody took a few nuggets, good things away. We will, as recorded, we will send out a link to this recording. So if you want to review it, you have information. We'll also be sending out some additional resources. Some of the things that were referenced in this conversation, we'll send you information about those. So there will be a follow-up summary email from us out to you. Just a reminder, BBB is now offering, if you get a, simply do BBB Maryland in your browser, find our local web page, click on the top menu button up on the top right hand side, click on coronavirus business resources. There you'll find a roster of all our upcoming webinars, or what we call our Trust Talks, as well as business resources as they are sent to us from the State Department. We put them in there. So on Thursday, we are having a conversation with Secretary Kelly Schultz of Commerce, the Department of Labor, the policy director. They'll be talking about unemployment, and then the deputy director from SBA. So register for that on Thursday. I know we have Trust Talks for next week, and I need another cup of coffee because I've forgotten the topics. But anyway, please visit there and stay involved with these. We're trying to make them brief, interactive, and hopefully giving our small business owners some additional tools to help them this way. Also, we want to remind anybody, if you were looking for, would like the benefits of a short-term consultant, we do have our trusted advisors. They are offering free consultation in the areas ranging everything from HR to IT to legal to marketing, etc. So we're there to serve you and provide that service as well. So that's it. Does anybody have, Clay, did I forget anything? All right. Chris, Nabil, Roy, thank you. Most of all, thanks to our small business owners who stayed with us this time together. Wishing you guys a great and safe rest of your week. Talk to you Thursday, I hope.
Thank you.